Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi. My name is Ren Aldrich. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm pleased to be your worship associate this morning. Whether this is your first time here or you've been coming for years, or even if you are with us online, we unconditionally welcome you as your full, authentic self. We gather here today with intention to remember our values of interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice, with love at the center. We often fall short of these ideals, but we continually grow as spiritual and moral beings. To that end, we recite a covenant each week, which is not a creed, but a promise we make to one another. We have several announcements today. All right. The Covenant of UU Pagans, CUPS, affectionately named, will meet after the service today for a Beltane celebration and potluck. Beltane is an ancient Celtic festival marking the beginning of summer, a time of fertility, fire, and the pastoral season. We welcome anyone who feels called to join us for community, celebration, and shared food. Michael Causey will lead a humanist discussion following the sermon by Matthew Manning today, exploring the themes raised in the duality of attack and how they resonate with humanist perspectives. All are welcome to join the conversation that they will be meeting in the Teal Room. The D&D gaming group will meet this afternoon at 2 p.m. Whether you're a seasoned player or a complete newbie, all are welcome. Our sessions are designed for everyone, so come and enjoy the fun, or just observe. We meet in the Raspberry Room. This one's on my phone, sorry. The first UU movie night will be this coming Friday, May 8th at 7 p.m. at the home of Kirk Newport. All are welcome. We can probably squeeze in about a dozen people. Please RSVP. The movie will be the 2021 Nicolas Cage drama, Pig. Yes, there's a pig in it, but don't let that trick you. It got a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. One reviewer wrote, "I didn't expect a Nicolas Cage movie to be the voice for this moment. I was wrong." Hope you can come, and you can see me after the service for Kirk's phone number to RSVP for that event. Next, Kirk will also lead our twice-monthly meditation group this Wednesday at 6 p.m. in the Teal Room. All are welcome to settle in, breathe, and share a quiet midweek pause together. The Friday Book Club will meet May 15th to discuss chapters 5 through 8 and close out The Disaster Tourist. The group is updating their book lists, both fiction and nonfiction, and your suggestions will go into the next round of votes. The book beginning on June 5th was announced at the last meeting, so pick up your copy from Joy Wright. We will discuss The Four Agreements, A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom by Don Miguel Ruiz and Janet Mills. It is also available to borrow as an ebook on your library Libby app and on a 2-CD set at your Corpus Christi public libraries. Our birding adventures continue on Saturday, May 16th for our final gathering before we break for the summer. We'll meet at Packery Channel Nature Park at 8:30 a.m., followed by coffee at Kaladi's, I hope I'm saying that right, Coffee Roasting Company. The sign-up sheet is in the hallway. For more information, please see Liz Cook or Lisa Cuevas. Our spring congregational meeting will be held after service on Sunday, May 17th at 12:15 p.m. We will be discussing upcoming elections for several committee and leadership positions. Tacos Not Bombs will next meet on Saturday, June 6th at 11 a.m. to assemble sandwich bags for our unhoused neighbors. All supplies are provided and donations are always welcome. You can drop off donations during Dawn's office hours on Monday and Thursday or bring them in any Sunday. For more information, please contact Kelly Thompson, who I saw. She's here. Thank you, everybody who showed up for the spring cleaning yesterday. Yay! I was not able to make it, but I have already seen there's a board in the foyer that has a list of everything they accomplished, and I think it looks fantastic. So thank you all so much for everybody who came to help with that. As always, check your order of service for regularly occurring events and scan the QR code to get the weekly e-blast where all of these events and more are listed. Now I'm done with the announcements. It is our custom in this church to offer visitors and newcomers a chance to introduce themselves if they feel comfortable doing so. If it's your first time here or you just feel ready to say hello after coming for a while, we invite you to stand as you're able or raise your hand, and Christy will bring you the microphone so you can tell us your name and where you're from. Are there any visitors or newcomers who would like to introduce themselves today? I see a lot of familiar faces. Okay, welcome. I'm glad you're here anyway. We welcome and invite you to join for coffee and conversation after the service and a potluck if you want to stay. We would love to get to know you. Our service will now begin. I invite you to stand as you're able and join the choir in singing our praise. Our opening words this morning are from Gary Kowalski. We gather here to worship, to seek the truth, to grow in love, to join in service, to celebrate life's beauty and find healing for its pain, to honor our kinship with each other and with the earth, to create a more compassionate world, beginning with ourselves, to wonder at the mystery that gave us birth, to find courage for the journey's end, and to listen for the wisdom that guides us in the quietness of this moment. I would like to invite Zeta up to light our chalice while I share these words from Richard M. Fuchs. May the light of truth illumine our minds. May the spark of love set our hearts on fire. May the flame of freedom burn brightly within us, now and always. Please rise in body or spirit for the affirmation of our church covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all we hold sacred. You may now be seated.
There's a train a-comin'. You don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. Don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. So people get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and boredom. There's hope for all among those love the most. There ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. A pity on those whose chances grow thinner. There's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. So people get ready, there's a train a-comin'. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.
Our story for all ages this morning is a video, and we will not be singing the children out afterwards, so we will continue on. Enjoy the story.
The day the custodian found the bad something on the bathroom wall, all the girls from Mr. Gilbert's class were called into the principal's office. The principal asked if we had any information. Some girls said no, Mrs. Martinez. Some girls stared down at the carpet. Mrs. Martinez took her time looking at each one of us. She seemed very serious and very sad. She said quietly but firmly, "This kind of thing won't be tolerated at our school." We all started fidgeting. We wanted to know, what is the bad something? Who did it? And what will happen next? The principal said no one was allowed to use that bathroom, but after lunch, Kyoko made a run for it, and me, Tanisha, and Emmy were right behind her. We giggled our way in and shut the door, then shushed each other as we looked around and over and on and under, until we saw it. The bad something. My mouth popped open. Tanisha turned around and ran out. Kyoko kicked the stall really hard, and the sound made us cover our ears. Emmy started to cry. The next day, that bathroom door was locked. The girls had to go all the way up to the second floor. Why do the boys have it so easy? Us girls thought. How does the principal even know it was a girl who did it? A boy could have snuck in. We all watched our classmates. We studied their faces to see if anyone looked guilty. We tried to remember who had gone into the bathroom and when, but most of all, we wanted to know who had done it and why. The bad something had made us feel horrible, all of us, because by then, each of us had told someone what it was until everyone knew. Even our parents knew, because the principal had called each house. Our parents whispered while they drank their coffee, but when we came into the room, they went quiet. Some of them hugged us at morning drop-off for way too long. We missed the days before the bad something appeared, because everything was different now. Some of us felt worried or confused or sad or angry. No one felt nothing. We were meaner than we used to be, like when Devin went to sharpen his pencil and tripped, and we laughed. Mrs. Martinez called the whole school to the gym to talk about something important, she said. Her voice crackled into the microphone as she told us that we were all special, that our school was special, and that she knew more than anything else in the world that we were kind, even if we forgot sometimes. She told us the bad something had no place here. Then, our teachers gave us all pins made from ribbons in our school colors to remember who we are, the principal said. We held our heads a little bit higher when we walked back to our classroom. Mr. Gilbert sat in a circle with us. His eyes were shiny when he said he had a big project, an art project, and we could all participate. When the boys came into the girls' bathroom, we snickered, but Mr. Gilbert said it was okay because we were all in this together. We painted and painted straight through recess all over that bathroom wall. Each one of us had something to add. Mateo drew flowers, and Rosa drew dragons, and Kai drew both, plus rainbows and dogs and lots of smiling people. We drew our whole class, and then we kept going. We drew our whole school. The principal liked it so much he let us keep working on it a little bit each day until practically the whole wall was covered. We couldn't believe what we'd made. But then we remembered. We asked Mr. Gilbert if the bad something was still there, and he said yes, that somewhere deep underneath it was still there, but we had changed it. We changed it when we covered that wall with our good somethings. We studied our work and wrote poems about what we saw there. We wrote about how our painting had more green than gray, more sun than clouds. Then we wrote about the world outside the painting. We wrote about how there was more good than bad, more love than hate. We are nicer than we used to be. Devin reads his poem now, the very first time he's read out loud in class. Some kids smile and nod. Some kids lean way forward so they won't miss a thing. Some kids close their eyes and let his words wash over them. We take our time to look at one another. We all see something. Something good. I hope you enjoyed this read aloud of some.
After our meditation reading and time of silence, when the music begins, all who would like to are invited to come this way to the chalice table and light a candle representing a joy or sorrow you may be holding in your heart today. If you're with us online today, you are welcome to share your joys and sorrows by using the chat feature. Our meditation this morning is about the relationship between love and protest, written by Jules Taylor. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it is not proud. Love bears all things. We know these words, use these words when we refer to one person loving another. Love looks different when we relate to systems. Love looks different in the face of injustice. It is then that love is resistant. Love is defiant. It is not backing down. It is staying in the streets. Love is holding each other and ourselves accountable. Love is challenging because none of us is free until all of us are free. Love is protest. Protest is love. Love bears all things. Our time of silence will now begin. Today, Matthew Manning will share with us a message about Fred Shuttlesworth and the confrontational space. Matthew Manning is an attorney and a son of a pastor. Suffice it to say, his resume is long and impressive, including several board memberships. Likewise, the list of awards he's received is of equal length and distinction. All totaled, Matt's endeavors in civil rights and social justice have earned him the nickname Manning of the People. Please welcome Matt Manning.
Apparently don't know how to use a mic.
It's on.
All right. Oh, thank you. Good morning. How are y'all? Good. I'm always so pleased with the opportunity to be with you today. I do struggle a little bit calling it a sermon because my father is giving a sermon right now in Austin, and I'm just hardwired to say it's not a sermon. It will be a discussion, a message maybe. And I want to start it out a little kind of uncharacteristic for me. You know, usually when I come, I'm boisterous, I'm over the top, right? I'll probably get there because I am who I am. But I want to start with the thought. So Arthur, give me a question that is apropos. His question was, what is going on in the social justice space? And I love that he asked that question. Because part of the reason I wanted to talk to you all about this today is because I was on a plane. I'm always traveling, right? Always handling cases in different places. I was on a plane in January, and I read a long-form article about Fred Shuttlesworth in a magazine called Column Magazine. Let me ask first. Raise your hand if you know who Fred Shuttlesworth is. All right? Raise your hand if you know who Hosea Williams is. Raise your hand if you know who Ralph Abernathy is. Robert Williams. The Deacons for Defense and Justice. Okay? I've heard Fred Shuttlesworth described as a, quote, civil rights lion. I tell you that because we often forget that the civil rights movement was really a pride. Not one lion, but many lions. And what I wanted to talk to you today about is Fred Shuttlesworth, because here's the thing. Who's the first person we all would think about when we talk about civil rights? Right? And Dr. King, I'm going to be very frank, okay? So don't be mad, but I got to be very frank. Dr. King was brilliant, obviously. I mean, a phenom, a once-in-a-generation type intellect. But part of the reason Dr. King was so effective and so palatable is because Dr. King had language that traveled, Dr. King had eminent qualifications, and Dr. King was inoffensive to the largely white majority in a way other people weren't. Fred Shuttlesworth was the opposite. And what I wanted to talk about today, the duality of attack, is this notion that if we are committed to social justice, there are a lot of different ways to go about getting justice. Now, I'll be very clear. I'm not going to advocate for violence today, nothing like that. But what you'll learn about Fred Shuttlesworth is for all of the comfort and for the palatability that Dr. King gave people, Fred Shuttlesworth was the opposite. He was the guy who was in your face. He's the guy who said, we will not call off this demonstration unless these 7 demands are met. And what I want to start out with is not bearing the lead. I want to tell you what we're going to get to at the end. We are at a time in our country where we have to have a multifaceted attack to the issues that are going on outside these walls, right? It can't just be the eminently qualified with all of the university credentials. It has to be the people who say, I don't care that you can't get to work. You can't get to work because I can't get human rights. Do you see what I'm saying? Fred Shuttlesworth exemplifies that, and I think he's the perfect person for us to talk about in this very space and what we're seeing in our country. Do you have the clicker? Nick, can you go to the next slide for me, please? All right. So this article was called Fred Shuttlesworth, the Man Who Wouldn't Flinch. And what you'll learn throughout the course of our discussion today is his legacy is that he kept getting knocked down and getting back up. And very, very publicly so. I mean, to the point that he's hospitalized, that his home was bombed. Other things happened. And in Birmingham, he was the man you went to. So everybody knows this, but in the black community in the 60s and even before in the 50s, The church was the focal point of the community, right? You went to the, in fact, my father's church is the oldest black church in the city of Austin as far as we know. So in the 40s, the 50s, the 30s, that's where people organized when they needed community connection. And the important thing is, in the 50s, Fred Shuttlesworth is in Birmingham. When we talk about the civil rights movement, we generally decade, the 19 what? Did it start before then? All right. In the 40s, Philip Randolph and the NAACP and other civil rights activists were organizing, right? The 60s is kind of the zenith that we all think of, March on Washington and all that. But there was a lot of work that happened before that. And there was a lot of work that was happening in disparate places until it all got drawn together. Fred Shuttlesworth was the man you called, the person you called in Birmingham. Why do we call Birmingham Birmingham? Because one of the most effective means of deterrence of organization was literal physical violence, bombing, right? Go to the next slide, please, Nick. So, first thing I want to talk about with Fred Shuttlesworth, raise your hand if you've ever heard of the SCLC. Okay? You know what the SCLC is? Can you give me the acronym in the back? Oh, it's all good. But I like your confidence. Yeah. Can you give me the acronym? Yeah, I can't. No, it's all right. Conference. That's exactly right. Thanks, Lee. Leadership Conference. You were almost there, though. You're very close. So the SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. What is the NAACP? Right. And in 1956, the state of Alabama said you have to turn over your membership rolls if you're the NAACP. Now, let's put a pin in that first. Is that constitutional? Why? I like your answer. It ain't the government's business. I like that. That's right. Real Clint Eastwood vibes. I dig it. I like it. I wish my voice got down there. He said it ain't the government's business. I like that. All right. Somebody over here said something. Okay, freedom to associate. Exactly. First Amendment, right? This is one of the fights that you see historically in the civil rights movement, right? And not only here, where else did we see this? Where else did we see weaponization of membership in the political space around this time? McCarthy. Right. What did they do? They blacklisted you if you were believed to be associated with communists, right? So it's the same idea here, but here this is so we can root out who's involved in affecting our status quo. Here's the brilliance of this. Has anybody ever heard of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights? You see it on the screen, but basically what happened in 1956 is the state of Alabama said you had to give your membership if you're a part of the NAACP, but there was a loophole that said if you're a religious organization, you did not have to give that information. So Fred Shuttlesworth and several pastors in the Birmingham area and in the state of Alabama came up with the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, which is essentially a social justice organization that advocated for the same things, but they did it under the guise of a religious association because they were thinking about how to get around that rule. And I thought that this was really such a brilliant thing because one of the things we have to think about in attacking some of the issues we see in society is not doing the same things that haven't worked, right? And right now, Arthur and I and Nick and some others were talking about the Supreme Court's recent ruling. Bless you. Did you see that ruling recently? It's insane, right? And what we're really doing is we're not being truthful about what it is. What it is we just don't care about minorities having political parity. But we're finding all the legal machinations to take away people's actual legal rights, right? The right to vote. I mean, what's crazy about that is we're talking about, 61 years ago? Things you would think, in my lifetime, I'm about to turn 40 in a couple weeks, my lifetime, you think Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is something that has teeth and it's continually being eroded. But that requires of us ingenuity in how we approach some of these issues that are facing us. So I thought this was very important. And one thing at the bottom is the combination of different things that they did. So boycotts, lawsuits, and direct action campaigns. But here's the thing we need to remember too. Not only is there a duality of attack, there is a necessity of sustained attack. Because I think sometimes what we think is we can go protest at No Kings one time and we've done our part. It must be sustained. If you look at the civil rights movement, that's what you see. You see for over 10 years, It was sustained direct action. We're going to be here at a sit-in every day for the next X number of weeks. That's something we've lost in society. Part of the reason we've lost that is because everything is a 24-hour news cycle now, right? So we think the information is being disseminated to everyone, and it is. But I think it's also that we're being desensitized because we see it so much. Maybe I don't have to go down and do the sit-in this time. Fred Shuttlesworth and people in that ilk obviously couldn't operate because of technology, but it was also about sustaining the campaigns, and I think we need to consider that in fighting some of the fights that we're fighting in the modern day. Please go to the next slide, Nick. Okay, so I told you about this, but can you imagine on the day of the year that virtually everybody is with family, bombed? So in 1956 on Christmas Day, this is actually how it happened. Fred Shuttlesworth and the Alabama movement for rights goes on the news, and they say, hey, we're going to have a sustained campaign, and we're going to desegregate the buses on this day. Because what had happened is Browder versus Gale, which is a famous Supreme Court case that segregated the Montgomery buses, happened right up the road, 100 miles down the road. So Fred Shuttlesworth and his people say, you know what? We're going to desegregate the buses here in Birmingham. The press puts out his home address. It says, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, such and such, address at 30th Street, Birmingham. So what do you think the Klan does? Thanks, let's write that down. Next day, they blow up the parsonage of the church where he and his family lived. They bomb it, but miraculously, nobody in his family got hurt, including him. And that's really interesting because he's imbued with this religious drive, right? This feeling that he's called by God to help his people. How do you think him and his family not getting hurt in this bombing added to the movement? Not only is God backing him, people in the community are saying, I heard a quote that said something to the effect of, if we had seen Jesus come back and walk on water, we still wouldn't have been as impressed as Reverend Shuttlesworth not getting blown up. Seriously, right? Because at the time in the community, for him to be standing up and saying, this is what we're going to do, and to have his house bombed in this way was really an extraordinary thing. But what you'll see the through line is here, there was no fear at any point. As he said one time, I wasn't raised to run. Because if you know anything about Fred Shuttlesworth, they say he was one of the hardest people to get along with. He was very persistent, very confrontational. And I think that's important. I mean, as a lawyer, right, I think about that all the time. I'm going to be in trial tomorrow. I'll be chopping up some witnesses in court tomorrow. And part of my job is to not only attack information, but it's to do so fearlessly. I have to leverage confrontation. And I think we as a society a lot of times run away from that because we want the kumbaya. We don't want the hard part. But you can't have progress unless you're holding people to task. This is where we are in our society right now, where rights are literally being in front of us. And especially with the Supreme Court finding a way to try to go back to this originalism. I mean, come on. If you're Clarence Thomas, how can you be an originalist if when the country was founded, you weren't a person? I don't understand that. But this is what we're dealing with in society. And we need to have real conversations, and we need to be very confrontational and unapologetic about it. Go to the next one, please, Nick. Okay, so to that same end, Brown v. Board of Education. What did that case say? Well, that's actually, yeah, thank you. Plessy versus Ferguson, but you were there. Separate ain't equal. Come on, leave preaching today. All right, separate ain't equal. Fred Shuttlesworth said, you know what, separate isn't equal. So my two daughters are gonna go to Phillips High School. What do you think happened when the well-known Fred Shuttlesworth said his two daughters were gonna go to Phillips High School? What was he met with? An angry mob. His wife got stabbed in the hip. His daughter got hurt. He got beaten to the point that he had to go to the hospital. And the quote that comes from this that I've seen quoted several places is, the doctors apparently said, Mr. Shuttlesworth, how do you not have a concussion? How do you not have a neurological injury? That God knew I lived in a hard town, so he gave me a hard head. But what came from this is the community was continuing to galvanize behind him, because one of the things that Shuttlesworth did that I think a good leader always does is they demand that you do what they are modeling for you, meaning if there's a march, I'm going to be in the front of the march. If there's a dog to bite, I'll be the first one bitten. If there's a hose to be sprayed on someone, I'll be the first one sprayed. And what you'll find if you do a little research about him is that's every story you hear told is that Reverend Shuttlesworth was just unafraid. He was the first one in line. And that's important. I think we now, diffusion of responsibility. We think, well, somebody else will get to it. Or maybe I can hold up a sign, but I won't be the one that goes to the city council and yells at them about how we have no water in Corpus Christi. But that's our duty. We as citizens cannot be afraid. And I think we forget this. I think the thing is, we're just far enough away from the civil rights movement to want the feel-goods and to talk about things, romantically, but to not want the discomfort. And I think about that. My mother, my beloved mother, 66, till she was 9 years old, she went to a segregated elementary school. Like, we're talking about in our lifetime. And many of you in this room might have gone to segregated schools. Anybody go to a segregated school in here?
Till I was 20.
We're not talking about decades. I mean, we're not talking about, centuries ago. We're talking about in your lifetimes. I mean, that's like an unfathomable thing for me, a kid from Austin, growing up in a school with people of all colors. But in many of your lifetimes, this was reality. So to have somebody standing up this way should not only be a reminder for all of us, but it should be a reminder for you who lived through that actual time, what it took for us to get here, which is precisely why it's so important that we cannot go back there. Y'all with me? Everybody say, we cannot go back. So we need to invoke the spirit of fighters like Shuttlesworth to make sure that doesn't happen. Go to the next slide, please, Nick. Now, here's what's important. We talked about King at the beginning. You see him and Reverend Shuttlesworth sitting at the table. What many people probably don't realize, though, as I mentioned from the beginning, is especially in Alabama, there were different things happening in different cities, right? There was different organization on the ground in Montgomery and in Birmingham. They're not far from each other, but you didn't have, can y'all hear me okay? It sounds like it's going in and out. Okay, you didn't have the same connectivity that we have now. So the reason that's important is if you went to a new city and you wanted to galvanize support, you had to find the person who had galvanized the most support. That was undoubtedly Reverend Shuttlesworth. So when Dr. King and the success of the Montgomery bus boycotts and what was happening in Montgomery really started to get legs, Reverend Shuttlesworth reached out and said, yo, you need to come to Birmingham. Because in Birmingham, there was a specific man who was emblematic of hate at its absolute worst. Who was that man? Bull? Who said that? Oh, it's on there? Okay. See? Off. Kathy's like, you should have the answer. You wrote it. Okay, thank you. All right. Thanks a lot, Kathy, taking the wind out of my sail. Bull Connor. No, I'm joking with you. Anybody not heard of Bull Connor before? All right, never heard of Bull Connor. So apparently Bull Connor was like a baseball announcer. A baseball announcer found his way to politics, and I think his official title was something like Director of Public Works or something to that effect. I don't think he was the mayor of Birmingham, but anytime you see these old civil rights videos where people are getting sprayed and those kinds of things, it's Bull Connor. He was as emblematic of segregation, hate, racism as you can be. And to that end, Reverend Shuttlesworth said, if we can take down Bull Connor, we can build the momentum that we really need for this movement. So he was making entreaties to Dr. King to come. And Reverend Shuttlesworth was one of the founders of SELC, so they developed that relationship through the SELC, and he brought Dr. King to Birmingham. But what's interesting about this is where you really start to see the duality arise. Because as I mentioned to you, at this time, Dr. King was going to eventually win a Nobel Peace Prize, right? You're going to have the March on Washington. He is the civil rights person that people are comfortable with and deferring to. How do you think that affected the strategy of the movement when someone like Dr. King, with all his bona fide, came up with Reverend Shuttlesworth? Do you think there was some conflict there, maybe? Why? Right? And even more so than just the methodology, and that's exactly right, is also the optics, right? The optics. With Dr. King, there was an air of morality, this idea of I'm speaking to the your better angel, so to speak, right? I'm speaking to this sense of morality that should guide you to do the right thing. Shuttlesworth said, I'm speaking to that sense, attack person that makes people hopefully rise to action. Throughout the rest of this presentation, and if you do any independent, see that during the time, that was a huge source of conflict, particularly because Shuttlesworth had the respect of his community, and he said, look, if you come here, you're going to have to fight, basically. Because if you come here and you're trying to make deals, that's going to affect my standing with my people, whom I've fought for 10 plus years and who expect me to be on the front lines. But one of the things that they did is they came with a C. And the C stood for confrontation. Everybody's confrontation. And again, as it goes to campaigns and sustained movement, this wasn't one protest. This was, we're going to do sit-ins, we're going to boycott, we're going to file lawsuits, we're going to keep the pedal to the metal to make sure we get the rights for our people. And I just love, because I think this is about as emblematic as it gets, his whole vibe was about coming at your neck. So they called it Project Confrontation, right? That's not funny to y'all, it's funny to me. Project Confrontation, which I think is emblematic of what we've talked about this entire time. Go for it, Nick, please. Okay. So, what is one of Dr. King's most famous writings? There's a lot of them, but I Have a Dream, the speech, but Lee is really showing off today. The letter from the Birmingham jail. Do y'all know how the story came about with him going to jail in Birmingham? Anybody know that story? Okay, so they were protesting. Yeah, I'm sure everybody in here has read it, heard of it. But they were protesting, and pretty early in the protest, Dr. King got arrested. But the funny thing is, he didn't want to be arrested. He didn't like going to jail. I don't blame him. I don't ever want to go to jail. Who does, right? But they knew that one of the things that would happen very often is they would be going to jail. So this picture is what they call the big three. Dr. King on the far right. In the middle is Ralph Abernathy. Very small aside, I went to Howard with his grandson, which is kind of crazy. A dear friend of mine, Abernathy as well. And then Reverend Shuttlesworth on the far left. What's funny here is you see they're all wearing denim. They all have kind of work clothes on. Before they went to protest, Reverend Shuttlesworth brought them what they call then, I guess, dungarees. I've never known denim by that name, but my dad would say Sears tough skins. He'd call them tough skins, but nonetheless. Dungarees, and he brought these because they knew they were going to go to jail. But what's important about that is one of the things they were always telling the community was like, you got to be willing to put your comfort aside. If you're going to come out here and march, you got to be ready to go to jail. And you, Dr. King, with all your PhDs and everything, I'm going to give you these dungarees because you're going to jail today. A couple days into that is when he started writing the letter to the Birmingham jail, the famous writing. But it was from this protest where they were marching and got arrested. Go to the next slide, please, Nick. And then what I thought was really, really brilliant is one of the SCLC volunteers, a young guy, I cannot recall his name. I think it was Bevel. I think it's Joel Bevel. But he came up with the brilliant ideas. He said, let's involve children and have children march for their rights. So more than 1,000 children in the Birmingham area on May 2nd and May 3rd of 1963 marched from their schools to this city park called Kelly Ingram Park. And here's why this is really important. What had been going on over the time in the several months before this is some of the merchant class, if you can call it that, in Birmingham, was starting to get really bothered by the images on TV, right? Because what they're seeing on TV is they're seeing young people, they're seeing socially active people getting bitten by dogs and getting sprayed by hoses. It's not palatable. It doesn't go along with the southern cell, right? So they started to get bothered by that, and when the children started marching, there was a really negative publicity on that merchant class. And what's very interesting, it happened a couple months before this, is one of the most ardent segregationists in the city of Birmingham was a big-time businessman. He was like the biggest real estate developer in the whole city. He'd gone to Japan, I believe, and there was a protest where there were some really striking images that had come out. Those images made it all the way across the pond, and he saw how his city was being depicted in Asia, And he was immediately like, no, we got to go back and make some changes because people are seeing that, across the world, we're treating our own fellow citizens inhumanely. So was kind of bubbling at that time. Sorry, somebody say something? So at that time, people are like, yo, we got to make some changes. So this Children's Crusade really leveraged that. The optics of the Children's Crusade really made people feel moved to try to do something. And here's the whole thing about this. What ultimately happened is the Children's Crusade started to really build momentum, and the people in the city started to realize, okay, we're getting some changes. But Dr. King met with the merchant class, and they say, look, just give us a 24-hour moratorium on this marching with the kids, and we'll try to make things a little bit better. At this time, they had so many children in custody, they couldn't even house them at the county jail. They had to move to the county fairgrounds. So imagine that here in Oasis County, if you went out to the fairgrounds in Robstown and you had thousands of children in custody. So this is a perfect example of the sustained campaign. But here's where we talk about conflict. Go to the next slide, please, Nick. What happens is Shuttlesworth is out there protesting, gets hit by a hose, and it bruises his ribs. He has to go to the hospital. So he's in the hospital, and while he's in the hospital, he learns that Dr. King is making this potential deal with the merchant class. And he said, look, I will get up out of this hospital bed and get down there before you make this deal and broker it with these people, because there are 7 demands that we have. We are not going to yield on those demands, and they're going to keep marching unless and until we get what we need. I want to put a pin in this. This is so important because we're seeing right now with the thing going on and with the, oh, well, maybe I'll give you this if you give me that. We have to draw lines in the sand in society. Are y'all listening? We have to draw lines in the sand in society, right? We are a dehumanization of people because they don't have particular national status. Are we really at that point where we're saying some arbitrary line that didn't exist till like a couple hundred years ago now determines if you're a criminal or a person seeking a better opportunity for your family? We cannot allow that to persist in our society. We have to draw lines in the sand that say not only we need to have water in the community that we live in, but we need to have water in a community where we live, and industry is subordinate to our need for water. Right? Like, we have a line in the sand that says you can make some deal that imperils my literal life over a dollar bill. Look, people need jobs. I don't have a problem with us having an industry. I do have a problem with the very basic offensive idea that we are supposed to somehow be subordinate to industry. That's a legal fiction. A lawyer makes up a company. You exist the moment you make your earthly entrance. And we are dealing with no water because of a fight between industry and the people. We have to draw lines in the sand. And we don't like to do that because it doesn't feel comfortable. We like to think we can have incremental progress. We like to think maybe if we write our congressman or our congresswoman, you'll vote the way. When we're past the point of deferring our autonomy, we as a society have to figure out a way to say no. You are not going to dehumanize a person because you don't understand their gender expression. We have to draw lines in the sand. And I think what's important is when we talk about the civil rights movement, we like the feel-goods of Dr. King because he makes us feel good. My little children and hand with white children, and we're going to live in a kumbaya. That's great. And I love Dr. King. I don't dislike Dr. King. What I dislike is that we as a society make him a mascot. We make him a mascot. We don't talk about the fact that some of y'all literally grew up in segregated schools. You knew what the reality was. So when we make progress forward as a society, it is integral to our health and our continued prosperity as a society to not go backward. And the way we don't go backward is we start to get pissed off. I'm sorry, but we start to get pissed off. And we say we have demands from which we will not yield. And those demands are you are going to treat us as full humans. You're not going to, under the subterfuge of legal cases, take away my ability as a black person to have the right to vote in my community for somebody who supports my interests. This is where we are as a society, and I think we only have one thought about how to address some of these issues. It's the institutional route. But we are seeing right now that the person occupying 1600 Pennsylvania does not care about our institutions at all. That those institutions only exist as long as we are willing to allow people to run roughshod over them. Because at the end of the day, those only exist for our benefit. I hope you're okay with me being overtly political, but don't ever call me back unless you want me to tell you the truth. Because where we are in this society is that we are trying to operate in an institution that no longer exists. These institutions do not exist. And there's an argument they never really did. But they don't exist the way we purport to have them exist. Because I guarantee you very soon we're going to be hearing about him trying to run for a third term. What does the Constitution say? You can't do it. What's going to happen anyway? It's going to start bubbling up. There have to be lines drawn in the sand. And those lines have to be drawn in the sand where we are not afraid of conflict. We have to be raised not to run. He's only one example. There are many other examples, people like Hosea Williams, people like Robert Williams, who fought and stood bravely, and many women as well who fought and stood bravely, Diane Nash. But this is what we need to adopt. This is not what we talk about in February when we talk about Black history, when we talk about civil rights. We only talk about Dr. King and the feel-goods. And a lot of it didn't feel good. I don't know about you, but I don't want my house bombed. And to get up and come back and to tell your people, you know what, I'm not angry that they did that. This is what I expected. This is the cost of progress. The cost of progress is discomfort, and the commitment to that discomfort in the understanding that if we want a better life, we have to do what it takes to get it. Go to the next slide, please.
Fred Shuttlesworth was the last of what came to be known as the Big Three civil rights icons.
Bombed, beaten, and repeatedly arrested, Shuttlesworth still marched on. Tonight, News 5's Curtis Fuller takes a look at his storied life.
To have a war against injustice, not against people, war against injustice, war against any system that sets up a thing where a man cannot be, cannot become.
For 70 years, he was a driving force in the civil rights movement, always fighting to make things better for all citizens.
Here's a man that many historians say today made Dr. King the man that he was.
Former Cincinnati Mayor Dwight Tillery talked to me about his friend, Fred Shuttlesworth.
He was part of what was known the Big Three: Dr. King, Reverend Abernathy, and Reverend Shuttlesworth.
We witnessed Reverend Shuttlesworth overcoming everything from his house being bombed to fighting off dogs and water hoses in Birmingham.
The Ku Klux Klan tried to blow me into heaven, blow me away. But you don't kill leaders. You don't kill the idea if you kill the person. But God saved me because he had to have somebody to go through a spectacular demonstration of his power to live in Birmingham. And when the detective said to me, he said, if I were you, I'd get out of town as quick as I could. I said, well, the officer, you're not me. And you go back and tell your Klan brother that if God could save me through this, I'm here for the duration, and the war is on.
Reverend Shuttlesworth came to Cincinnati in 1961, and in the past few years, he retired from the pulpit at Greater New Light Baptist Church. He was a fearless civil rights fighter who worked side by side with Martin Luther King Jr.
King did not want to be the only one, nor do I. We live to glorify Christ. We live to better the life that Christ came and died to give us by teaching men how to love, how to give, how to forgive.
They were change agents that forced an end to segregation.
Fred Shuttlesworth had been in bad health for quite some time. He died at a hospital in Birmingham, Alabama, surrounded by family and friends at the age of 89. We'll let you know when funeral arrangements have been set and if there will be services right here in Cincinnati. We are remembering the civil rights icon.
So obviously he moved to Cincinnati near the end of his life. But I wanted to show you that, to show you him, you know, in his older age and kind of reflecting on it. But if you are interested in the civil rights movement, and if you're interested in what led us love and protest, and the fact that those two things not only coexist, but are dual attacks on the same issues, Look into Reverend Shuttlesworth. Go to the last slide, please, Nick. There is a superb documentary done by Alabama Public called Shuttle. YouTube, it's awesome. You can't beat it. So definitely watch it. And you'll see that, I've sat here and talked to you a little bit about him, but I think the airport in Birmingham is named after him, and also I want to say the Alabama Museum of Civil Rights is named after him. He's an absolute titan. And he said what I think we need to keep here today. Number one, we need to fight, and we need to be unafraid. Number two, we need to remember that these movements are inclusive. They require all of us and what we can do. And what we need to do is we need to realize that we cannot run from confrontation. Everybody doesn't need to be me necessarily with a bullhorn somewhere, which I often am. But we need to think about the fact that this is a team lift. And right now, that lift is to keep going forward and to not go backward. Right now, we're being dragged backward. We have to go kicking and screaming and really never go at all. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt Manning. Manning of the people, living up to his name once again. We always appreciate having you here, Matt. Now is the time we participate in the financial care of our church community by giving and receiving the offering. If you're contributing to your pledge today, please be sure to write pledge on your check or cash envelope. When the music begins, the ushers will offer you a basket for your offering. Alternatively, you can use the QR code on screen to give electronically. Your offering, no matter how you make it, will be gratefully received. Please remain seated after the music is over for the closing of our service.
Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Preacher, don't tell me heaven is under the earth. I know you don't know what life is really worth. It's not all that glitters gold. Half the story has never been told. So now you see the light. Stand up for your right. Come on.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Most people think great God will come from the sky, take away everything and make everybody feel high. But if you know what life is worth, you will look for yours on earth. So now you see the light, yeah. Stand up for your right. Come on.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up.
Don't give up the fight. Don't give it up. Don't give it up.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Yeah, yeah.
Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Getting tired of you easing peace and getting done. Go to heaven in a Jesus name, Lord. We know when we understand. The mighty God is a living man. You can't fool some people sometimes. You can't fool all the people all the time. Now you see the light. Stand up for your rights. Come on.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Come on.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
It is our work, shared with each other in covenant, that creates and sustains this beloved community. We extinguish this chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen today. The light of this faith lives on in us, together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits. Amen and blessed be. I now invite you all to stand and sing as we leave this friendly place.
As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return.
Until next time, friends, go in love and light.